Okay, this is another guide, and specifically this is a guide for the honor opener tree in the Lekmod multiplayer mod, played most frequently in the No Quitter Steam group. Why am I making this honor guide? Well, first and foremost, it's quite a bit different honor from the base game. It is a viable and valid choice as an opening tree, which it really is not in the base game. And secondly, it's also probably the hardest opening tree, particularly for beginners, and there's a number of reasons for that. One is just the nature of the tree. It's slow to start, it doesn't get many extra hammers and many extra yield bonuses. Really what it gets is these 2 free warriors, and it gets cheaper barracks. And that's what it gets for those early yields. Compared to Liberty and Tradition especially, but also Piety, that's sort of mediocre. No straight yields. You get the happiness and culture from the garrison, but that of course requires the production to garrison the unit. It's, in short, lacking in those immediate bonuses, particularly that Tradition and Liberty get. It's also difficult in that it has what I would say the highest highs and lowest lows, in that good honor games where you can kill a lot of CS or you can kill a player early has immense snowball potential. But bad honor games are terrible. And you can get caught behind, you can get bad luck, you can have a number of bad situations happen to you that just put you behind forever. It has that element of that snowball element that's at the heart of Civ, in that if you get that snowball rolling early, you can do very, very well with honor. If you delay and delay and delay, you're going to have a very bad game. So yeah, it has this highest highs and lowest lows. And another reason why it's just a tough tree in general is that it's tough to practice it, or it's near impossible to practice it in a meaningful sense. Because when you play single player, AIs hate it when you take city-states. They hate it when you declare war on city-states. They won't trade luxes. You will be happiness starved. They might declare war on you. It's just difficult because of the nature of the Civ 5 AIs to practice this the same way you can practice Tradition or Liberty or Piety or these more peace-dependent trees. Honor more or less obliges you to kill players or kill city-states, and that pisses off the AI and they won't trade with you. So, all that being said, Honor has slow start. Honor requires killing CS. Honor requires starting the snowball early, but without a lot of help. So why do you pick it? Why do you pick it? Particularly with respect to Traditional Liberty. Why would you pick Honor and not Traditional Liberty? Well, there's a number of reasons. I suppose there's the Civ-specific reasons. For example, I'm Jerusalem here, and Jerusalem has a unique courthouse. So that would be a good reason to go Honor, because I get 2 happiness, 2 culture from every one of the courthouses I would build. Other reasons to go Honor would be if you have a unique barracks or armory, or you get bonuses for building those, like with Macedonia. You get specific early units that are helpful for killing city-states, like the Aztecs, for example, or Assyria with its unique catapults. Rome would be another example of a good honor civ. Basically, civs that get early military bonuses that help you kill CS or get you benefits from killing the CS, like Jerusalem. There are also map reasons to go honor. So for example, you can see here, I've got a ring of city-states that are blocking my expansion. I've got a city here, a city here, a city here, a city here. But if I want more than those cities, I'm going to have to kill city-states. We can't actually see it here, but there's another city-state right here. So I've got a nice wall of 6 city-states that I can kill, turn into my own cities, And really, the biggest reason to go honor is this policy right here, military tradition. Courthouses provide +3 food, +3 production, and +3 gold, and are built in half the usual time. That is the central perk of opening honor, specifically as an opening tree, not so much as a secondary tree. That turns each of these cities, which would be mediocre if I conquered this with traditional liberty. These would be mediocre cities. But this policy, +3 hammers, +3 food, +3 gold, it turns each one of these cities into solid cities. Particularly as Jerusalem with my unique courthouse. That is the very purposeful reason to open honor to start, is to turn your nearby cities, either city-states or players, into these new courthouse cities. Specifically, the reason why you might want to capture cities rather than plant cities with liberty or tradition is that in capturing a city, you get a number of bonuses. You get the buildings that have already been built, except for those that were destroyed in the taking. You get tiles that have been improved. You get borders that have been expanded. If you capture a city like Port-au-Prince or Islamabad at turn 50, you can turn that around fairly quickly because you'll get, of course, the free courthouse, but also you have tiles already, you have population already, you have buildings already. That would be a lot more beneficial to take Islamabad at turn 60 versus the planted at turn 60. You definitely want, it would definitely be a better city if you take it at turn 60 than if you planted it at turn 60. And that again sort of is essential to this nature of the courthouse, that you can turn it around, turn it into a productive city quickly. There are also benefits if you can kill a player early. Generally, you want to focus on killing city-states in the early game as honor, just because if you go honor, your neighbor is going to be looking for an attack. And you don't have a production edge, particularly on liberty, but also on tradition. You don't really have production edges, and you don't really have gold edges. And until you pick up this policy discipline, which might be the last policy you get in the opener, you don't even really have combat bonuses, minus the promotions. So really what you're thinking of when you pick honor is, do I have city-states nearby that I can kill? Convert to courthouse cities, and then work from there. That's the basic idea of why you go honor. You see a situation like this, you see a bunch of courthouses, city-states with courthouse potential, and you kill them, build your courthouse, turn them into productive cities. You basically treat them like late expands. This touches on what I would call the two main strategies when you play honor. I call them archer first and city first. So basically, you can do two things. I could go and build a granary, then I could research archery, pump out a bunch of archers, and kill these flat city-states. There's Ife, there's Port-au-Prince, there's Wittenberg as well right here, that's flatland. The benefits are, you get these courthouses earlier. You get these cities, you think of them as early expands because you're killing them turn 25 or 30 or 35, the same time that your liberty or tradition expands would be going down. And everybody knows, or at least that I constantly say, the sooner you get your expands, the better. So you could think of it in that way, that these are your expands. Better to kill them now than later. Kill them first, settle cities later. I think that has some advantages. It's particularly better if you see a lot of flatland city-states because they're easier to kill. But in general, I prefer what I call the settler first or the city first strategy, where you build settlers, you get your cities out first, the cities you want to settle, in which in this case I see 1, 2, 3, 4 expands, so 4 settlers to build. And then out of those expands you build units to take these city-states. So instead of taking them turn 25 or 30, you're taking them turn 45 or 50 or 55. Slightly slower with the courthouse snowball, but also slightly safer. There's quite a bit of risk when you're building archers that a city like this, particularly the hill city-states, you can see they've got higher combat strength. If these cities build walls, they are going to be terribly, terribly tough to kill with archers. And it's risky to assume you're going to be able to. So that's why I generally prefer going for cities first rather than archers first. Because you can also get access to the catapult, which is the sort of specialist city killing unit. Okay, in terms of city placement, things work a bit different than tradition especially, but also liberty, in that because you're limited on that early culture, you want to plant cities so that they're adjacent to hills, they're adjacent to your luxes, and also maybe, ideally, so that they are within range of a barb camp. So like Piety, your border growth is limited, so you can't plant a city and then expect it to grow to all these tiles. And in general, you want to save your gold for things like upgrades rather than buying tiles. So a city like, for this cotton, what I wouldn't do is I wouldn't settle on the river right here, because I don't have immediate hills. That city would take forever to go to the hills, and I don't want to spend the money to buy them when I could be using that for buying units or upgrading units. So instead, something I do, for example, instead of settling here on the river, thinking about long-term potential, I would settle here, next to the stone, next to the cotton, next to the hill, next to the cattle. I've got all the tiles. I'll be working for the first 15-20 turns. No need to worry about anything else. For a city like this, I would settle probably on the hill so I could shoot this barb camp with the city. And then I'd probably settle here or here and settle over here. Those are nice cities. They're on rivers. No sort of sacrifice involved. But in general, you want to be thinking more short-term, less long-term. Remember, you don't have the benefits of liberty and tradition. You don't have those benefits to food or hammers. You need to get your cities going by themselves, which means focusing on short-term things like, do I have immediate hills? Do I have immediate tiles? Don't think about long-term things like gardens or hydro plants. Other important considerations that I would say when thinking about settling cities is honor, doing the sort of honor sim, so to speak. Pantheon, God of War is a sort of obvious pick. It gets you +2 hammers from your barracks. So if you're settling 5 or 6 cities, you're going to be building barracks relatively soon, thanks to that half-price policy, plus the hammer culture and gold. Turning a culture building into a +3 hammer building, pretty nice. You know, if you're settling 6 or 7 cities, that's a big hammer boost. Likewise, if you're killing CS and then spreading a religion there, also nice. Other things to consider would be other pantheons that help with, again, the short-term, immediate demographics. You know, stone circles for production from quarries, or God of Craftsmen for +1 hammer per city. Things like that. Things that help you immediately, worrying less about the late game, worrying less about, you know, what happens at turn 70 or 80. Focusing on getting that snowball started as soon as possible. Another thing to consider would be key text to go for in the early game. You have things like bronze working for your barracks. You have your luxury texts. Here I've got, I just need calendar and mining. Pottery, if you're going to build a granary and do archers. And then, perhaps most importantly, is mathematics. Mathematics is where you get that catapult, which is that specialist city killing unit, and also the courthouse that is the entire point of honor, turning these cities into courthouse cities. Often, one of the reasons why you might not want to do archers first is because if you have jungle calendar resources, for example, you have to go bronze working, you have to go calendar, and you might have to go trapping. That delays getting to mathematics for a while. You don't want to conquer a city-state and then wait 5 or 6 turns to start building your courthouses. That's less than ideal. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to jump ahead. I played this already. So I'm going to jump ahead to where I left off, some 27 turns later, it looks like. Just to give you a sense of how I'm playing my honor sim in this situation. Generally to start, you want to go, I usually go Scout Monument. I usually do that in general. But really, you don't want to start the game thinking honor. You want to scout, see if you've got those city-states nearby, see if you've got some good reason to go honor besides just your civilization. Because even for a civ like Jerusalem with its unique courthouse, I wouldn't automatically want to go honor to start. So here you can see, a bit later into the game, I'm getting to mathematics just now. So see that even though I've gone focused on sim first, I'm just getting to mathematics now. So if I had gone archers first, I still would have been hard pressed to be building my courthouses already. I would have focused on it a bit more. I probably would have gone masonry, but that gives you an idea of the sort of slower start. You can see I'm building barracks. I picked God of War. I stole all these workers. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 workers. I only built 1. So that's 13 workers stolen from all these city-states. Because I didn't meet the AIs, they're actually not pissed at me for this. So now that I'm sort of out of my original the starting position, I'm building my granaries, I'm building my watermills. Now I can start to think about building catapults and other units to start killing these CS, getting military tradition, building these courthouses. Another thing that you can generally say about honor is that it's low culture to start. You're not generating a lot of culture directly. So for example, I have 1 monument, and the rest of my culture is coming from garrisoned units and my barracks. Also, the culture I'm getting from killing my barb camps, which I can only farm 1 at the moment. The reason why you don't build those monuments ASAP like you would for Liberty, for example, is just because there's more important things. You need your barracks, you need your granary, you need your other growth buildings, and then you need units to kill these CS. There's really, building monuments delays you enough that you're not getting that snowball rolling. Time is very, very precious as honor, because you've got that slow start. You need to be focusing on getting those units, getting those kills, converting those cities into your cities as soon as possible. Here you can see I've got an enemy down here, I've got an enemy down here, not immediately adjacent. I definitely, if this was a multiplayer game, I definitely think I'm killing these city-states first. Port-au-Prince looks good. Wittenberg looks good. Ife looks good. Notice that I've got a mix of luxuries here. These 4 are all unique luxuries. This is unique luxury. And this is a copy, 2 citrus here. But other than that, in the 6 CS, I've got 5 unique luxuries. So that, plus my unique courthouse, I'm going to be able to sustain the happiness. This looks like a very, very good honor set. This would be a sort of ideal case where you'd want an honor game. You could do a lot with this game. Play this well. This is definitely one of those higher high games. What kind of decisions you'd be looking for after this would be when you kill these first wave of CS, what do you do next? Do you go Notre Dame for happiness? You go expose to kill a player, maybe? Do you try to sim more immediately? Do you go to civil service and then education? These are all different concerns, which really depend on the game. They depend on your neighbors. They depend on how much happiness you can bear. In general, the weakness of Honor is that early slow start. You're lagging when it comes to education. Usually you get education 5 or 6 turns later than a sim player. That means you're lagging on that first set of and second set of scientist generation, which means you're not getting to those early sort of artillery timings or early industrialization or public schools. What the purpose or what the idea of Honor is yes, you start slow, but you build and build and build that snowball. And once you're out of this sort of initial or the late Renaissance, early industrial, you've got that powerhouse that can't be stopped. That's the idea with Honor. That's the sort of ideal case. And the reason why Honor is so tough to play for a beginner is that it's really hard to test that in this sort of environment. Because if I killed all these city-states, every single AI here is going to just hate my guts, not trade with me. I'm going to die of happiness, die of unhappiness. So this is the kind of thing that's at the same time requires that multiplayer setting to practice, which makes it hard to do in practice. Or it makes it hard to pull off in a multiplayer game. In general, I would not recommend playing Honor to beginner players or even sort of lower intermediate players. This is definitely something to do after you've sort of mastered the basics of the game, especially the basics of SimCity. Something that you can do is try to play Honor just like tradition. So that settle 4 or 5 cities, garrison them with units, kill barbs, steal workers, but try to sim, through workshops, through education before you kill anything. That might give you a better idea of what the strengths and weaknesses of Honor play are. In conclusion, I would say that Honor as a tree it's very difficult. It's very finicky. There's a lot that can go wrong, but there's also that sort of long-term potential that other opening trees don't have. Because Civ, at its heart is a war game. All these Honor bonuses are war bonuses. Gold from kills, culture from kills, cheaper barracks, cheaper armories, combat bonuses, cheaper upgrades. All these things become very relevant in the late game. When, your land ships, your planes, your rocket arties are decided in the game. Honor, sort of slow to start, very strong in Atomic, very strong in Modern. The question is, can you sort of build out of that slow start well enough to compete so that you're not getting killed before you get to those relevant techs? I would really, really, really encourage beginner players not to do Honor before they have mastered the sim, because it might seem, with a tree so focused on killing stuff, that this is not a tree that needs good sim, not a tree that needs you to master those sort of smaller details of when to improve tiles, when to buy tiles, when to chop, how to maximize your worker micromanagement or your tile management. Because of your limited hammers, and because you need to get that snowball started as soon as possible, Honor really is the sort of the province or the domain of the best players. The players who can sim the best, get the most out of Honor. They're the ones who really unlock that high-end potential. It seems counterintuitive, but again, that's just down to the nature of the difficulty of the tree as a whole. it really takes those better players to unlock the true potential. So what I would generally say as a word of general strategy to players is you want to pick honor when you see a situation like this, when you see city-states blocking your expansion, when you see city-states that would make good expands, so to speak, for you. And then you want to focus on getting those cities out first, getting their basic buildings, their barracks, their granaries, maybe their watermills, and then focus on units. Particularly the way to kill city-states, especially if you're a new player, build a bunch of catapults, build roads toward the city-states, and then try to kill them in 1 or 2 turns. That way you're minimizing what can go wrong. You're minimizing the potential for bad RNG. You're not maybe getting all the kills, but you're getting those cities, getting the courthouses built, and moving from there. Honor is really, really finicky. I again want to stress not to sort of treat it lightly, or to make sure that you have the more basic game mechanics first, but it can be really, really, really strong. If you're interested, I have a bunch of Honor games on my YouTube channel. There's another streamer who plays a lot of Honor games called General Bardak. That would be someone worth checking out if you want to see examples of a really strong Honor player. The bottom line is, again, those high highs and those low lows. Lots of potential, lots can go wrong. If you have any questions, leave a comment. You know, I respond to all the comments eventually, because I really want players to, in the No Quitters group, to be stronger, to have a stronger grasp on the fundamentals of the game. And Honor is one of those trees that can get you out of those bad starts, bad situations. Situations that a lot of newer players just find themselves irrelevant in. That about sums it up. Yeah, so if you have any questions, leave a comment. And hopefully we can get some stronger players, some stronger Honor players in the lobbies.